Sir, you are on live. You are on live.
అందరికీ చెప్తున్నాను సార్, స్టాఫ్ అందరూ ఫోన్ చేస్తున్నారు మేడం, మీరేమో అంత నెగటివ్ పబ్లిసిటీ చేస్తుంది. రాజేంద్ర ప్రసాద్ సార్ కూడా ఫోన్ చేసి చెప్పిందంట సార్.
Sir, you are on live.
Right, sir, right.
Live. Start the class.
Right, sir. నాకు disturbance వస్తుంది. Okay. This is P.V.Ramana, JL in English, TSRJC, Sarvail. Welcome to webinar classes of TREA Society, Hyderabad. The topic is a poem, A Little Grain of Gold, English Module 1, First Year Intermediate. Please let me give the PowerPoint presentation, please. Sir, I want to go for PowerPoint presentation, please.
Yes, you can go.
Right, sir. Thank you. Yes, today's lesson is it has been taken from poetry, A Little Grain of Gold. Today in this session, we are going to read a message-oriented poem, A Little Grain of Gold. It was written by Rabindranath Tagore. It is prescribed for the first year intermediate students of Telangana state. It is the second unit of module 1. It has been taken from Tagore's masterpiece, Gitanjali, a compilation of poems that won Nobel Prize for him. The book consists of 157 poems and it is the 50th poem in that collection. Gurudev Tagore was a Bengali poet, short story writer, musician, playwright, painter, composer of songs, an essayist, and educationist also. You know, a wonderful, famous education institution was established by him, Shantiniketan. By seeing all those, we can say he was a multifaceted person. He composed our national anthem too. This poem conveys a universal message. Before going to read the poem, let us discuss a few points. See, trees give fruits for others to eat. Rivers flow for others to use. In turn, they won't expect anything from us, will they? Are you happier to give or receive? Generally, most of the people feel happy to receive. They are happier to receive. But you see, nature's generosity knows no bounds. There is a wonderful saying. Have you heard the saying? God gives and forgives. Man gets and forgets. Do you know what one loses by not learning to give? So if you want to know, please read on to find out. A wonderful poem, A Little Grain of Gold. Before going to read the poem, just let me explain what is a grain. The word grain means a single seed of various grass food crops. Example, a grain of wheat, a grain of corn, a grain of oat, etc. A little grain of gold means a small seed of various food crops. For example, in this poem, it is a grain of corn. Yeah, here, this is, it has been taken from the textbook. You can find the poem at page 15. Yeah, yes, for our convenience sake, just I have brought all this poem into slides. Let me read the poem for you. I had gone a begging from door to door in the village path when thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. And I wondered, who was this king of all kings? My hopes rose high, and me thought my evil days were at an end. And I stood waiting for alms to be given unasked and for wealth scattered on all sides in the dust. The chariot stopped. The chariot stopped. Come to the next one. The chariot stopped where I stood. Thy glance fell on me, and thou camest down with a smile. I felt that the luck of my life had come at last. Then of a sudden, thou didst hold out thy right hand and say, what hast thou to give to me? Oh, what a kingly jest was it to open thy palm to a beggar to beg? I was confused and stood undecided. And then from my wallet, I slowly took out the least little grain of corn and gave it to thee. But how great my surprise when at the day's end I emptied my bag on the floor to find a least little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept and wished that I had had the heart to give thee my all. So this is the poem that was written by Tagore. No doubt the poem gives a universal message. Yeah, let us take stanza wise. Before going to read the poem stanza wise, there are certain words we have to think about. There are certain Old English words. We call them archaic words. Generally, we don't come across these words in modern English, particularly in prose. Even today, when people make an attempt to write a poem just for to give such a poetic flavor, they add these words, they use these words. But generally, we don't come across these words in modern English. Let me explain those words. Thy means you are. Thou means you. Didst means did. Here, chemist. Chemist means chem plus est, chemist, that is a second person singular. It is also an archaic form. Didst is also an archaic form. Second person singular, simple past tense is chemist. Hast means here that is the first, second person singular, and it is present form of have. Me thought, it is a wonderful expression. It is an archaic form. Generally, we can't see such kind of expression nowadays. Me thought means, yes, before going to explain this word, just I would like to tell you, me thinks. There is a word, me thinks. It means, it seems to me. It is an archaic expression, and the past tense form of me thinks is me thought. So here we take the meaning of it seemed to me. Yeah, these are Arctic words, Old English words. Generally, we don't see in the present prose, in the present English. Okay, before going to read the poem, let me talk about the various new words that we are going to see in the poem. Chariot. For the convenience of our students, intermediate students, the phonetic transcription is also given. Please look at the transcription. Chariot means an open vehicle pulled by horses. Alms means money, clothes, or food given to the poor. Scatter means drop things in different directions. Jest means a joke. Heap means a pile. Right. Now let us take the poem stanza-wise. Look at the first stanza. Let me read the stanza again for you. I had gone a begging from door to door in the village path when thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. And I wondered who was this king of all kings. You see, the speaker of the poem is a beggar. One day, the beggar was going from door to door in the village for alms. You know what do you mean by alms? Alms, money, clothes, or food given to the poor. He was dazzled. He was almost surprised. He was baffled, confused, and dazzled by the splendor of the golden chariot. He found it in the street, the village street. He wondered whether the chariot was real or he was dreaming. He was elated at the sight of the king of all kings. Why he was elated? You can find it in the next stanza. Let us go to the next stanza, stanza 2. My hopes rose high, and methought my evil days were at an end. And I stood waiting for alms to be given unasked, and for wealth scattered on all sides in the dust. Look at this. His spirits were elated. He felt happy on seeing the golden chariot in the street, in the village park, because his hopes suddenly rose high. Why did his hopes rise high? Because he expected the shower of unasked wealth. He thought that his evil days, means his bad days, would come to an end. He thought that he would be blessed with a shower of wealth, unasked wealth. Okay, let us go to the next stanza. The chariot stopped where I stood. Thy glance fell on me, and thou camest down with a smile. I felt that the luck of my life had come at last. Then of a sudden, thou didst hold out thy right hand and say, what hast thou to give to me? You look at this. The chariot stopped where the beggar was standing, and from the chariot the king saw him and came down. The beggar thought that his luck had come to him. He thought that his bad days would come to an end. But contrary to that, yes, he had expected something, but what happened? He had expected that the king would give him unasked wealth. He would be blessed with a shower of wonderful wealth. But what happened? The king came down from his chariot and held his right hand out and asked the beggar what he would rather give him. Oh. And then let us go to the next stanza. Stanza 4. Oh, what a kingly jest was it to open thy palm to a beggar to beg. I was confused and stood undecided. And then from my wallet, I slowly took out the least little grain of corn and gave it to thee. What a kind of joke was it? The King of Kings was stretching a hands to a beggar. At first, the beggar was confused and he was undecided. Finally, slowly, he took out a least little grain of corn from his wallet. Look at this word. What is a beggar's wallet? A cloth bag. Yes, he took out a least little grain of corn from his cloth bag and gave it to him. Okay. Come to the next stanza. Stanza 5. But how great my surprise when at the day's end, I emptied my bag on the floor to find a least little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept and wished that I had the heart to give thee my all. At the end of the day, that means when the begging rounds were over, he came back, he returned, and in the evening, he emptied his bag on the floor. That means he poured everything on the floor from his wallet, from his cloth bag. And to his surprise, it was very surprise. He noticed a little grain of gold in the heap. He wept bitterly, he repented for not recognizing who the king was. You see, the king was no other than God. God wanted to test the beggar. So here, what did the beggar say? Yes, he told himself, if I had the heart to give thee, thee means you, here it refers God. If I had the heart to give thee my all, that means if he had given all what he had in his cloth bag, he would have been blessed with so many gold grains. It is a wonderful message. Through this poem, Tagore wants to convey a wonderful message. That is, giving is the greatest part of grace. Giving gives us utmost happiness. Most of the people feel that receiving is happier than giving. But do one thing, give something to the needy, then yes, you can enjoy the bliss of giving also. So giving is the greatest part of grace. Yeah, these are the 5 stanzas. And for the convenience of our students, just I would like to give the summary of the total poem. Just come to it. Before going to summarize the poem, just I feel that let us appreciate the poem. What is the poem about? How the poem is. We have to think about certain areas in the poem, certain components, certain areas in the poem. Yes, you see, look at the expressions. There are certain expressions like golden chariot. Yeah, golden chariot means how was the chariot? It was the golden chariot. It was almost like a golden one. And the golden chariot that made everything means everywhere. Yes, it was bright. Everything was bright and filled with golden hues. Hues means, I mean, colors. And there is another expression, a beautiful expression like a gorgeous dream. Gorgeous dream means a dream of splendor, or that is a splendid display of something. And look at the next expression, and the king of all kings. Yes, think about the impressions that generally generate in the minds of the readers about the king. You see that, yeah, why the poet has chosen such wonderful expressions? Because the presence, the man or the king of kings who came in the golden chariot was no other, no ordinary mortal. He was a God. He was God. God came there to test the beggar. So that's why such wonderful, pompous, and excellent words, excellent expressions were used by the great poet Rabindranath Tagore. Think about the impressions generated in the minds of the readers about the king. The king of all kings is referred to God, who is the supreme ruler of this universe. Yeah. Here, one more idea that is, it is really a wonderful, a striking idea is given in this poem. It is a striking point. The speaker was, who is the speaker of this poem? The beggar was the speaker. He was first undecided and then slow to give. Why was he undecided and why was he slow to give? Yeah, you see, he was, when the king stretched out his right hand, and when the king asked him for alms, the beggar was undecided, and very slowly he took out a little grain of gold, little grain from his cloth bag and gave it to him. So here there is a wonderful question. Would he have been equally undecided and slow even to receive? Once again, I would like to give the question once again. Would he have been equally undecided and slow even to receive? Not at all. The moment he saw the golden chariot, yes, his spirits were elated. You please think about the state of his mind. He expected that the God, the King of Kings would bless him with unasked wealth. He expected a lot, but when it was his turn to give, very slowly, he was undecided, and very slowly he took out a little grain from his cloth bag and gave it to him. So there is a wonderful question. When it was your turn, when it was his turn, how did he respond? That is very, very important. Yeah, these are very important ideas given in the poem. And now, just I would like to give the summary of the poem for your sake, for the students' sake. One day, a beggar was going for alms from door to door in the village. A golden chariot appeared to him like a beautiful dream, gorgeous dream. He wondered, and his spirits were elated at the sight of the King of all kings. His hopes rose. He anticipated the shower of unasked wealth. He thought that his bad days would come to an end. The chariot stopped where he was standing. The king saw him and came down. He thought that his luck had come to him. But the king held his right hand. But the king held his right hand out and asked what he would rather give him. What kind of joke was it? Sorry. The King of Kings was stretching hands to a beggar. He was confused and undecided. Finally, he took out a least little grain of corn from his cloth bag and gave it to him. Here, him, it should be capital. At the end of the day, because him refers God, at the end of the day, he emptied his bag on the floor. He was surprised to find a least little grain of gold in the heap. He wept bitterly for not recognizing who the king was. He was no other than God. He was tested by God. If he had given all, he would have been blessed with so many gold grains. Yeah. For the sake of our students, intermediate students, just I have given selected annotations and selected questions. These are very important for your public examinations. So please think about them. Selected annotations. Thy golden chariot, thy means you are. Thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. What hast thou to give to me? This is second. And the third one, I slowly took out the least grain of corn and gave it to thee. The, thee means Y-O-U-U. I bitterly wept and wished that I had had the heart to give thee my all. So these are selected annotations of our intermediate students. And there are questions, selected questions. Why did the beggar's hope rise on seeing the king? Why did the beggar weep that night bitterly? We what we saw. Does the poem support this saying? These are selected questions. And there is a big doubt, yes, how should we write an annotation? Yeah, I show you one example. How to answer an annotation? Let us take one annotation. Thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. You see, I have taken two paragraphs, reference and explanation. Look at the reference parts. These lines are taken from the poem A Little Grain of Gold, written by Rabindranath Tagore. He was awarded Nobel Prize for his compilation of poems, Gitanjali. This is the 50th poem in the collection. The poem speaks about the virtue of giving. Virtue means good quality, the goodness of giving. It depicts the unimaginable ways in which God tests his devotees. The speaker of the poem, here I'm going for explanation part. The speaker of the poem is a beggar. One day the beggar went from door to door in the village path seeking alms. All of a sudden he saw a golden chariot coming towards him. He was dazzled by its splendor. He wondered whether it was real or he was dreaming. So in this way, yes, you are supposed to write an annotation in about 100 words. In this way, you can develop an annotation for the remaining also, for the rest of the 3 questions also. And I would like to show you how can we answer a question. How to answer a short question. I have taken a question here. Why did the beggar weep bitterly that night? The poem, so your answer should be in about 100 words only. The poem, A Little Grain of Gold, is taken from Tagore's Gitanjali. It is the 50th poem in that collection. The poem highlights the virtue of giving. In this poem, Tagore depicts the unimaginable ways in which God tests his devotees. The speaker of the poem is a beggar. One day, he returned home and emptied his cloth bag on the floor. To his surprise, he noticed a little grain of gold in the heap. The beggar realized, he repented, that the king in the chariot was no other than God. He wept bitterly at his miserly attitude. You see, he was ashamed of himself for not giving much. He felt sad and told himself that if he had had the heart to give his all, he would have been blessed with so many gold grains. So this is, in this way, I never say that this is the exact way of writing, but in this way, we can present an answer for a short question. So before going to conclude, just let me read the poem for your sake. Just the pronunciation is also very important, dear students. Let me finish. Let me read the poem for you. I had gone begging from door to door in the village path when thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. And I wondered, who was this king of all kings? My hopes rose high, and methought my evil days were at an end. And I stood waiting for alms to be given unasked, and for wealth scattered on all sides in the dust. The chariot stopped where I stood. Thy glance fell on me, and thou camest down with a smile. I felt that the luck of my life had come at last. The right hand and say, what hast thou to give to me? Oh, what a kingly jest was it to open thy palm to a beggar to beg. I was confused and stood undecided. And then from my wallet, I slowly took out the least little grain of corn and gave it to thee. But how great my surprise when at the day's end I emptied my bag on the floor to find a least little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept and wished that I had had the heart to give thee my all. Dear students, for your sake, just I would like to talk about certain Old English words. Just please let me come back. Just let us take them. Here are. Yeah, here are Old English words. Just I want to explain once again. So I just to give you to make so that you can make out very clearly. Here are words. Thy means you are. Thou means you. Didst means did. Camest means came. Hast means have. Methought it is a strange expression. Methinks means it seems to me. It is an archaic expression. You cannot see it now. Archaic means that is an expression that was used in Old English. Okay. Methought means here it seemed to me. Look at the glossary also. The phonetic transcription is also very important for you because you have to identify the word that is given in the phonetic in the transcription, and you have to write the word in general English. So for that, a transcription is important for intermediate students. Chariot, an open vehicle pulled by horses. Alms, money, clothes, or food given to the poor. That is P-O-O-R, poor. Scatter means drop things in different directions. Just means a joke. Heap means a pile. Here, glance means a quick look. There is another word. Glance means a quick look. Okay. Now, this is the poem. Hope you have got the simple idea of this poem. So, thank you all. Thank you. I'm going to conclude. I'm going to finish my poem. Yes, thank you all.